Hey guys, we have a really cool guest on the podcast today. It's Mariah Zavala. She is a community advocate, ultra runner, and business development professional at Mountain Mojo Group. Born in Fresno and raised in Tucson, she now calls Flagstaff home, where her work is rooted in strengthening local economies, advancing Indigenous wellness, and creating opportunities for youth. As an ultra runner, Mariah uses movement as prayer, advocacy, and healing. She believes in the power of joy, culture, and connection to the land as medicine and carries that vision into her work, community, leadership, and everyday life.
What did you like about the interview? I feel like the interview was so interesting.
Yeah, it was so good. One thing that she said is that, like, when she runs, it's like she's, like, praying with her feet. And I thought that was so cool because, like, I've never thought about it that way. Yeah.
She's running these crazy distances, and so I feel like that allows her to, like, connect with herself and her community. I feel like I run a little bit. I'm not running ultra marathons.
Right.
But, like, the fact that she's seeing it through the lens of spirituality, I feel like that must allow her to, like, run far more distances.
Yeah.
Than,
so
like, the guy who's going to Strava it and, like, talk about it and, like, make it his personality for his entire, like, week.
Right. Yeah, and the ultramarathons are crazy. She was saying that she runs 250 miles for an ultramarathon.
That's insane.
What? I don't even think I could run 6 miles.
And she's making it, like, a cool experience because she's, like, allowing these kids. She started this, like, nonprofit group for people who run, people who want to do rafting experiences, and just giving these people who are going through hard times and giving them a reason to connect with the outdoors and themselves and each other. And so I think that's really cool.
It's really cool. Okay, well, it's a great episode, so let's just hop right into it.
The Epstein Files.
What's your Roman Empire?
The specific scene from Avatar: The Last Airbender, the Puppet Masters episode, it's where this old guy, like, slams his thumb with a hammer.
I'm cold, so it's summer.
Probably sleep.
Right.
Think about that a lot.
Okay, this is diabolical, but the Epstein Files. I'm, like, so intrigued.
Welcome to this episode of Take a Leap. Join us as we talk to young people who are using their faith to change the world.
Hey guys, we're back with Take a Leap, and today we're here with me, Ocean Marshall, and
I'm Neftali Rodriguez.
we have a special guest today.
Cool. Buenos dias, buenas tardes, wherever you are. Los Enchanyavu, Quechamalea, Inepo Mariah Zavala. I am Mariah Zavala, a member of the Pasco Yaqui tribe. I'm Oaxacan and Puerto Rican, so I'm extending my greetings in Spanish, Yoeme, and in English. Good morning.
Perfect. Love that. Okay, and then we have a fun little question to start off with. So, do you have any New Year's resolutions that you're still keeping up with?
Ooh, you know, my team and I have talked about this a lot. A lot of us are not really New Year's resolution folks just because we're like, if we have goals, we should go for them during the year. But I would say mine has been sleeping. So I have a nice little sleepy time routine where I have some sleepy tea, some good Numi sleepy tea in the evening, and my magnesium, and I set my TV timer to 30 minutes to, like, put myself to bed. And I think I appreciate it in my body, and I think my dogs appreciate it, so they're not watching autoplay movies on Prime or HBO at 2 in the morning with blue light.
Oh, that's funny. What about you, Neff? Do you have any?
I started 75 hard at the beginning of the year, and it's been literally eating me alive. But, like, we're so close.
Kudos. Congrats. And you, Ocean?
My New Year's resolution was to work out 4 times a week, so I do Pilates 4 times a week, and I love it. Love Pilates.
Oh, that's awesome. To the crowd, don't sleep on Pilates.
No, for real. It's the best. It's literally the best.
I do an hour with our hot studio here, so, like, hot Pilates, I'll do Monday through Friday at 6, like, a few classes. And sometimes I get out of there and I'm like, I'd rather run 10 miles than go and do whatever I'm doing in there.
No, literally. The hot Pilates is intense. It's so intense, but it's good. It's really good for you. Okay, so you're an ultra runner, which is so much fun. What does that just mean, that you run, like, marathons and half marathons and all that type of stuff, or is it, like, more than that?
Yeah, it's interesting. So technically, ultra running is, I guess, anything more than, like, a marathon. So this past year, I was training for the Cocodona 250. Shout out to Catula. I was blessed and honored and had the privilege of receiving a scholarship from them fall of 2024. So I trained for that this past year, and I'd actually never done more than a marathon before May of 2024 in Shiprock, New Mexico with the Navajo Yes program. And so from January to December, I did my first 50K, a couple of 50 milers. I attempted the Cocodona and DNF'd, but I got through the hardest section, which is like almost 13,000 feet of elevation gain, and wrapped up my year with a 50K and ran like a handful of marathons, either from training or my last like timed one was the Every Woman's Marathon. And so that's what it's kind of looked like to be an ultra runner. I ran through high school and a little bit in college in cross country and track. And so now I think this year I want to run a little faster again, and maybe in the cities and maybe not climbing mountains, but we'll see.
Wow. We're rooting for you then. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
That's so cool. We were looking at your page and we were like just so inspired that like you're running these long distance races. And so we're curious to see like what made you want to get into that. And then we're also curious on like the way you're dressing when you're doing these running, because like I feel like that's such a beautiful part of your culture. And so just tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so as I mentioned, I ran in high school and college, and unfortunately short stopped my athletic career early on, which was, I'm okay with how it's impacted my journey now. So when I moved up here in 2019, I was like 23. I took a break from running because it was just really hard for me to go back to that sport. I decided to get back into running, and when I was going to go back to running, I wanted it to have some more meaning. Murdered, missing Indigenous people, that cause, those issues were becoming more and more prevalent, and having my own experiences with that, especially with my grandmother who was murdered when my mom was 12, and just the way it has its ripple effects in our communities. I used my first race that year as that. And in my culture, as I mentioned, I'm a member of the Pascoyaqui tribe. We have these promises essentially that we'll make to like creator or the greater good, however you'd like to phrase it, and they're called mandas. And so when I did my first race in 2023, it was like my promise to creator, my promise to my community that I would run in honor of this movement and bring awareness to murdered, missing Indigenous people. And so almost every race I've done since then, especially ones that have been donated to me or I've been sponsored for or anything like that, have been for that movement. So I try to dress in my traditional clothes for that, and I run with the red handprint that is very famous for being part of that movement, and that's how I've integrated the two, and I've been very blessed to do that. And getting to do that is a very sacred experience. I will share, like those first few races I did, it was so surreal to feel like I could hear my grandmother's voice, to feel like I could hear voices of other ancestors that have passed on or were bringing strength to endure, and also being inspired by fellow Indigenous runners who do it, groups like Native Women Running, Rising Hearts, both who have assisted me and supported me on my running journey, and being able to meet more people that way. It's kind of how they've become hand in hand.
Yeah, that's so amazing. Thanks so much for telling us about that. So this sport is, you have to have so much endurance for it. So what has that taught you about surrender and perseverance?
I love endurance sports, and I've learned more and more that endurance sports, whether it's cycling or running or anything like that, a lot of folks who are in it have come from like overcoming resilience and adversity and things like that, and having to mature quickly, trauma, things that way. My childhood wasn't particularly easy, and so I think it kind of teed me up to want to be in an endurance sport where you're constantly pushing and you can feel some sense of control from being able to push yourself. But I would say the perseverance from here isn't all about force, but also about flexibility. So growing up that way and always having to pivot, you get into these spaces and you think it always continues to mean pushing harder and going faster. But with ultra running, it's really matured and humbled me in a different way, from walking, slowing down. You're doing a lot of hiking because you're climbing these mountains and you're having to really take care of yourself, actually, which is so different than like blitzing through a 5K, even a full marathon or a half marathon. And so just seeing that surrender isn't so much quitting, but releasing that control while still staying committed. So recognizing when you need to go really slow on a climb, making sure you're feeding yourself and fueling yourself to get through the next 10 miles, because these next 10 miles are going to be a lot harder because of an incline or because of rugged terrain or anything like that.
Hearing you explain it is so like, it's honestly spiritual. It's like, wow, there's a lot more going on behind what, I'd be driving and I see people running. I'm like, oh, they're running, but for you guys, there's purpose. There's a reason for that. And so we also want to talk a little bit about how you serve as a chair of the Indigenous Commission for the City of Flagstaff. Mm-hmm. And you also sit on the advisory board for Girls in the Run for Northern Arizona. And so tell us a little bit about that, your experience with that, like what you've learned and how you've grown through those positions.
It is such an honor and a privilege and a gift, really, to be able to serve with that group and to step into this leadership role as the chair this year. So that group serves as really a representation to bring voices and put together community events that serve our Indigenous community here in Flagstaff. So we live in Coconino County, the second largest county in the U.S. And in this county and in the city, about 30 to 40% of our population are those who of the Indigenous community. There are over a dozen tribes in the surrounding area who find Mountain Dok Oosli. And please forgive me, my Dene relatives, if I mispronounce that, but that's the Mount Humphreys Peak over there. That's very sacred to them. And so is the canyon and a lot of places here where the Navajo Reservation is, Hopi and other tribes are. And so I have a real gift to be able to help lead and spearhead some of those events, whether it's fundraising or coordinating or anything like that, for our community members to gather in a space where it's safe and we can have conversations about what they're doing in the business community, what's happening in surrounding areas, things like that. And as for Girls on the Run, a bit similar to what I do with the commission is similar to how I serve our advisory board, being able to make more connections in our Indigenous communities. So Camp Verde, Sedona, Cottonwood, Prescott, all these places where we can serve young girls from the ages of 8 to 13 in curriculum around self-care, self-esteem, and incorporating like health and wellness through the running aspect. And so those girls go through a curriculum series that's about 6 to 8 weeks. We celebrate with a big 5K. And our 5Ks have completely transformed to have like a prayer stick runner and have those aspects of the community and just a lot more inclusive, which is great. Because as you had mentioned earlier, Neft, I really appreciated you celebrating what I shared about running. But running is so sacred and it is traditional in our culture, and it's a way we pray with our feet, and it's a way we bring good medicine. And so both of those roles have similar qualities on how we can really engage our community and create more spaces for those who don't always have a seat at the table.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love the way that you said that we pray with our feet. I've never heard of it that way, and that's just so cool, because it's really like everything is made from God, and it's like really, we just need to be grateful and, like you said, like pray with our feet by going out in nature and running or just being grateful. So we heard that you also work with a nonprofit called Grand Canyon Youth. So can you just like tell us a little bit about that and what you do?
Yes, shout out Grand Canyon Youth, my girl Emma Wharton over there. I love Grand Canyon Youth. So I am the founder of a program called the Anya Collective, but it stemmed from developing what we've called the Basco-Yaqui Tribe Rafting Experience. And so through a nonprofit based in Tucson called SPL Sports Inc. It is a nonprofit that is dedicated to serving youth and creating opportunities through sport. Do all the logistical planning, and I bring kids from the Basco-Yaqui tribe to go rafting in the summers. So we take about 10 kids between the ages of 11 to 14 years old, and we raft the Upper San Juan. It's a really nice, I don't want to say easy, because if you haven't been rafting before, it can be challenging being in the elements, but it's a nice starter trip for these youth. A lot of these kids grow up on the reservation and are affected by social determinants of health. So either single parents, they're foster kids, or being in homes with substance abuse, growing up in food insecurity, things like that. And so some of them actually haven't even like swam before or been to the community pool yet. So going onto this big rafting trip is just such an eye-opening experience for them. It teaches a lot of team building, a lot of leadership development. We do tribal curriculum, equipping them with the tools they need before going into high school to develop that sense of self-worth, to know a little bit more about themselves and their tribe and where they come from with the tribal curriculum, and just being able to do like a very life-changing experience to go into high school where a lot of the decisions we make may not be as easy to bounce back from if they're the wrong ones, right? And that's very human of us to do, but to give them a sense of something greater than themselves, and that there's a lot more opportunities they can work through outside of traditional school or things like that. So that's where our partnership is with Grand Canyon Youth, and we are incredibly grateful for their support. They have been just amazing to work with.
That's so cool, because I feel like that's a good opportunity for kids to get out of that environment, whatever they've been used to, and just get out and explore different elements. Rafting is scary. It's so scary, but I think it's even a cool analogy. It's like, yeah, like you're safe, you have your life vest, you're with people like you, leaders who are guiding them, they know the path. And I'll say, I hope these kids are recognizing that you guys are truly doing some beautiful things. Do you have a specific like story, a moment that's really like shaped who you've become because of what you've done with that?
So when I presented this to GCY, to Chantel and them, and I was so excited, especially because I moved up here to Flagstaff and I was becoming outdoorsy and was like, wow, all of this was like never accessible to me when I was younger because of poverty and things like that. And Chantel was like, okay, great. Like, and you've been rafting before, right? I was like, no, but that should be the same as like camping, right? Just with water. She's like, no, we need you to like go on a trip first and go work with one of our groups that we already have. Take a youth with you before you put on this big, huge trip. Because rafting is, if you haven't gone rafting before, it is different and it can be challenging again, like I mentioned. And we went, and the first day was just, what inspired me to do it is because of how healing it is. And, you know, in our culture and in a lot of Latinx culture, indigenous communities, things like that, water is so sacred and water is life. And so that first day we dropped off in Sand Island, Utah, and we were coming up on Butler Wash. I felt this sense of calm that I'd never felt like truly in my life.
That's so cool that you're allowing these people to like get their voice now, giving them that opportunity and platform to feel comfortable in their own skin is really beautiful. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to do another ice-breaking question that's super important. Okay, what's your Roman Empire right now?
That's a good one. I guess like decluttering. I don't know. I've been going down some rabbit holes in my house and have had ADHD piles like out the wazoo around here. So trying to throw away things, but also trying to upcycle a bunch of stuff.
I think for me too, I think for my thing right now is just like, I've been like constantly been wanting to like redesign my room. I made a shelf a couple of weeks ago and I was like, oh, I need more light. So I bought like a little light thing from IKEA. So like I've just been like really been dialed and making a really good room.
What about you, Ocean?
Mine has been the universe and like planets and black holes and everything. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts about it and it's crazy. It's so crazy. Like there's 20 billion planets just like Earth with like no civilizations on them in our universe. And it's like when you think about it that way, it's like how is there like not a creator like above us? You know, it's like we're just so lucky, and yeah, I just think it's crazy. So I've been diving into that.
That's awesome. I'm glad we're all like OCDing on something, you know, like we have to distract ourselves somehow. You've described how you're in contact with kids younger and giving them a platform to feel confident. So how do you balance big dreams with small everyday acts or forward steps? How are you balancing those two things?
I've had to think about that a lot because I'm learning that if you are going to have those big dreams and those are the things you want, you do have to take the little steps. The little steps do matter. I'm learning a lot about that at my role at Mojo. Woohoo, Mountain Mojo, go Rand and Sydney and Nikki, everybody at the team. I like to get stuff done and like very restless, and so having to go step by step and follow all these things can feel a little difficult for me, but as I've reframed, because that is part of the day-to-day, it's important. All those little steps you take, the little nuance, what you feel like is a nuance really isn't, because it's all going to contribute to that greater, bigger picture of whatever your big dream is going to be. And so even you mentioned earlier talking about cleaning your room and things like that, even as small as that, like for me, that's part of why I'm decluttering everything. I'm like, if I can have a nice, good space, this is going to help me feel better. And if I feel better, I'm going to be able to work this way and do this and do that. It's all relevant to each other. And though things can come together messy and with parts missing and skipping some of those steps, it makes for a lot more of a smoother ride and a lot more predictability.
I definitely agree with that. So what's one leadership quality that you see emerging in young people today?
Authenticity. I am amazed, I'm flabbergasted, gobsmacked, whatever word you want to use, by how authentically and genuinely like in tune our youth are to just be themselves. And I found myself in moments of almost being like uncomfortable, you know, and I think that's because especially for BIPOC women, like we're so taught to shrink, you know, but young people are refusing to do that. They're refusing to make themselves small, and they are so brave and courageous to choose almost every day to show up wholly as themselves, you know, and I think that is just so, it's inspiring, honestly, and it's beautiful. And so authenticity is definitely becoming a leadership skill.
That's so cool. So you've had so many amazing opportunities come in your life, and I think that when amazing opportunities come, it's kind of easy to lose sense of your values. So how do you make sure that you don't do that?
You still think you're right all the time, even when you get into your late 20s, and it's very important to surround yourself with people who are willing to give you strong feedback, whether it's positive or negative, and to constantly also be self-aware and check yourself for your core values and what it is. And so for me, it's my mentors and I try to practice humility. Doesn't feel that way with how much I've talked about myself this far, but having mentors, you know, it's a blessing and a gift, and it's changed my life. And I didn't even realize that's what they were, these adults that looked out for me when I was in high school and when I was in college, and continue to stay in touch with me now. But that willingness to have a mentor and the humility and vulnerability to ask for help. So saying you don't know and being vulnerable, remembering where you come from and remembering who's helped you get there. And so I stay grounded by remembering who's helped me get here and where I am from. You know, I get to be really active. I have a great community here, but I grew up in poverty, on food stamps. I didn't even have insurance because, you know, my family and I didn't even know how to apply for access and riding the bus and things like that in Tucson. Like, it's good to take those moments to reflect on where you've come from and how it's impacted you. And again, I can't emphasize enough just being willing to say, I don't know, and can you teach me? Or being willing to be taught. So if somebody does come and tells you and says, like, you know, I don't think you said this very well, or hey, this is something I noticed that wasn't on par what we wanted, just being willing to receive that feedback. It is so helpful. And now I ask for it all the time. I'm like, please tell me what was bad. I want to improve. You know, so having those mentors that are willing to not be afraid to give you that feedback too.
Sweet. Well, I definitely took note of that. I feel like that's something so valuable. And I feel like we're still all learning. I was talking to my mom earlier. She's like, I'm still learning things. Kind of to wrap up the podcast, again, thank you so much. It's been so nice to hear what you have to say and the passion and the love that you have for your work and yourself and your community. If you could leave young adults with one encouragement, whether about faith, purpose, and service, what would it be?
Just be the community. Be the community you want to live in, that you want to breathe in, that you want to be surrounded by. So if something feels unjust or is missing, do something. If you are being invited into leadership and conversations, and I know we get tired with our 8 to 5, with our class schedules or anything like that, say yes. Take the time. Go to that meeting from 5:30 to 7:30. Go to the focus group on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., whatever it is. You know, we have Indigenous teachings of reciprocity, so care for your community if you want it to care for you. And so just live the community you wish existed. It's really easy to complain, and a lot of us do, and that's a very human thing for us to do. But if you don't want to keep having those same complaints, then, you know, take action or be willing to be there. Just, again, live the community you wish existed. It is going to be what you put into it, and it will come back to you. And so if you're investing into it, your community will invest back to you. It's a long game, but it is, when your community shows up for you, it's beautiful, and it's worth its weight in gold.
Thank you for listening. If you like this episode, share it with your friends and family, and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Take a Leap Pod. I'm Neftali Rodriguez, and our production team includes James Sturdivant, Aaliyah Alexander, Heidi Hansen, and Ocean Marshall.